Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer News Cast. It is the 28th of May 2021. I'm Wesley, editor of Eurogamer, and I am once again joined by Eurogamer News editor Tom Phillips. Say hello, Tom.
Hey there.
And Eurogamer reporter Emma Kent. Say hello, Emma.
Hiya.
We have a lot of news to get through this week. So, like Sonic, we got to go fast. An obvious joke. We will get to Sonic in due course. But first, it is Eurogamer Newscast tradition to do a catch up about what we've been playing. I've got a feeling Tom and I have been playing the same game we talked about last week, which we can chat about briefly. But Emma, what has been whirring in your disk drive this week?
I kind of a very boring answer again, which is Apex Legends again.
You're mad into it again, aren't you?
Yeah, no. Once you kind of get started again, you're like, oh, I've got to improve, and it just kind of keeps going and going, and you get placed in harder matches, and it's just you can't stop.
We were talking about this week, weren't we? About you being really good at this and the game SBMM, skill-based matchmaking, basically punishing you for being really good at Apex.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but my friend and I, nobody really knows how it works, but we always do well at like the beginning of the season when we haven't played for a while, and then like a week in, we'll be struggling, even though we probably should have improved, and we'll be like, what's happened? We're just terrible now, and we think it's probably because we're in harder matches. We're just going to say that anyway.
Yeah, blame SBMM.
Yeah.
So are you like taking this super seriously and like trying to improve? Are you trying to like actually get super seriously better at Apex?
Not super seriously. I think it's always like fun to push yourself. Like we're trying different characters and different kind of strategies. So like before, my friend and I would do like Pathfinder and Wraith, and they're both very good at running away. So this season we're trying to do the opposite of that and choose legends that work better for like attacking. So like Bloodhound and Revenant, and see if we can like figure out combinations of abilities and things like that. So yeah, I think it's just you can continually improve with it, and that's why it's always like pulling you back in again.
You win every now and again as well, don't you?
Yeah, we had an evening where we got like 4 wins, and that was pretty good. So
that's amazing. That is amazing. I can't imagine that ever happening to me in Call of Duty.
My best game was like a 12 kill game. So I want to get back up to that and see if I could do it more regularly.
Yeah, and then the game can slap you back down for getting too cocky. I forget Apex's got like classes essentially. Warzone, everyone's the same, but although you bring your loadout in. Tom, let's do this. We both just finished Mass Effect Legendary Mass Effect 1 on Legendary Edition, didn't we?
Yeah, I think my final save file was something like 29 hours on it.
God, I haven't actually looked at that.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier. I did a really thorough playthrough with the side quests and stuff, which dragged it out a little bit. But overall, it was a fun start to the trilogy. It's definitely my least favorite of the 3, just because I think the strength of the trilogy is how the storylines build over time and the characters evolve. And you know, you're with Garrus in Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, and his character changes and improves and adapts and all of that. So yeah, you don't get all of that in one, but as a starting off point for the series, just really fun to like go to the Citadel for the first time and meet all the characters and the races and like some of the planets are wicked. I really like the creepy Feros, for example. There's some really cool sci-fi stories there. Like you go into the village and people are acting weird and what's going on, and like the Rachni as well. The first sort of big moral decisions that you make in the trilogy. So there's some really nice moments.
Yeah, I think it's a very atmospheric game. It has its moments where it can be quite creepy. The combat is so bad. The Mako is so bad. Like I found myself just wanting it to end, just so I didn't have to do that stuff again. Even though I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I must have put in around that similar amount of time as you. and I'm going to play Mass Effect 2. I'm going to roll straight into Mass Effect 2. The best bit for me is just, you know, that moment where you sort of speak to Sovereign for the first time, the Reaper ship. I'd forgotten that, completely forgotten that bit. And so when that happened, I mean, it was once again, it was really, really great. Like, it's just creepy, weird, like very impactful, because you're finally getting to speak to Reaper after the whole, up to that point, it's just been this big mysterious threat that you haven't really understood. What the sound effect that they apply to the voice is fantastic, makes it really cool.
You will exist. You exist because we allow it.
Yeah, and you're just learning so much.
We demand it.
Oh my god, you actually know the line off by heart. Is that actually what it says?
Yeah, that is my favorite line in Mass Effect 1. I think it's like the writing quality throughout is incredible, but like
I can't believe you just reeled off a line of dialogue from the, and we hadn't talked about this scene before. It's not like I said I'm going to talk about this scene, so you had a chance to look at the line. I just brought it up and you knew it off the top of your head.
It's incredible, like that little, and I just love the little pieces of the puzzle that you get, because obviously now the game's been out for ages, and as soon as you see Sovereign, whether you play Mass Effect before or not, you're like, oh yeah, it's a Reaper. Yeah. But you got to remember, when people were first playing this game, they had no idea what was.
Yeah, big mystery. Lastly on this, and we've talked about this before in previous shows, that you weren't sure if you were going to keep Ashley or Caden. I need to know, did you keep the space racist or the lovely, wholesome love interest?
You'll be pleased to know that Caden is alive and well.
Well done. The correct decision.
Could have gone for something really spicy there.
Yeah.
I'll save Ashley in a renegade run in the future. Yeah. I don't remember what happens with Caden in 3. So that was kind of the thing that tipped it. But he's so
don't say it. He is so boring. I shagged him last night. That was good. Alexia loved it. Anyway. The news. Wow, where to start? Oh god, there's been a lot of news. Some pre-E3 stuff, like we're getting close to E3 now, and so we're getting some companies going live with various bits and bobs, and some stuff that is leaked has been reported on, that we've rubber stamped. I guess probably the biggest news of the week. It's not like this is something that we didn't know was coming, but we're saying Nintendo Switch Pro, which Nintendo hasn't even announced yet, is going to be revealed before E3, and it will be out this autumn. Now, Tom, you rubber stamped a report by Bloomberg about this with your own sources. What can you tell us is happening about Nintendo Switch Pro?
Well, we've known that Nintendo will release an upgraded version of the base Switch console for a long time. These things don't just drop out of thin air. They take time to sort of come together, and there have been whispers, reports for 18 months now on something like this coming along. Our expectations of it, based on previous reports by Bloomberg, are that it will have an improved screen and that it will upscale when docked to TV. And, you know, this is the pattern that Nintendo follows. It always sort of refreshes hardware as consoles get older. Switch is 4 years into its lifespan now. This is about the time that we're expecting, but we weren't expecting it maybe to be announced this soon. So that's kind of the surprise this week. It makes sense. Like, what I've heard is that by getting the announcement out of the way prior to E3, when E3 does roll around, all of the companies that are taking part in E3, if they are building games for Switch, are then free to show off the best looking version of their game. Because, you know, if you are making let's say you're making a Resident Evil game for Nintendo Switch, why would you show off a version of it that doesn't look as good as it could do?
What could that be?
Yeah, and you'd want to, or like you're making a game and you haven't announced it yet because you're waiting for this new hardware to be announced. So by getting this out of the way before E3 itself, that means that E3 can just be about the games and the software. And it's what Nintendo has done in the past as well with announcements for 3DS, getting like the hardware portion done before the show, and then the show can just be about game.
Right. autumn, because we were talking about this and we weren't sure if it was going to be this year or next year, right? But the reports now are saying it's out this year, like it's out in time for Christmas, which I'm surprised at. I can admit I'm surprised at, because the main reason for me is because it's not like the Switch needs any help. Like, it's the best-selling console. It's selling incredible amounts, like, but autumn.
It is surprising. Yeah, and it is earlier than I think we've talked about previously expecting. There's no like drastic sales need for Nintendo to release a new Switch model right now, but it will phase it in. The fact that like they're in a good sales position means that even if stock is limited, they're not, struggling to sell any Switch. It means that they can just filter it through and gradually phase out the old model while keeping the light still there as an alternative too. And it means that as you're starting to get to games like Pokemon, hopefully Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, that you can launch those with the new hardware, or have the new hardware out and it be an option for people to play these games on as well going into Christmas in 2022.
Right, so this is my question. If the Nintendo Switch Pro is out in this autumn, does that mean Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is out this autumn?
You would want a really big Switch game to launch alongside the hardware. And we know Pokemon is November and then January. So that suggests to me that there is a big Switch game coming out towards the end of October or autumn time alongside this, which isn't Pokemon. And then you're thinking, well, what could be big enough to justify that? Of course, Breath of the Wild 2. There's also the possibility of Metroid, which we still don't know very little, but we still know very little about. But it is also Metroid's 35th anniversary this year. Not that Nintendo seems to have realized this yet, as well as Zelda's. So, yeah, I think like Metroid and Zelda are in play. Would they drop a big title in December? Maybe. But it's interesting as well that Pokemon Arceus is coming out in January, which is earlier than people were expecting.
Arceus, mate.
Arceus, yeah. People were thinking that was going to be March. So the fact that they've got it in January suggests to me that maybe there's something in March that they want to keep quite a distance from it. Maybe if you've got a big open world Pokemon game, you don't want to launch that the month before a big open world Zelda. So, and also March would be the 5th anniversary, not only of the Switch itself, but of Breath of the Wild 1. So
all of a sudden we've gone from Nintendo's year looking like shit to too much Nintendo. Like, we cannot cope with all of this Nintendo. Emma, you've got a Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you get this? Given you've got a Switch?
No, because my Switch has got the nice little Pikachu and Eevee on it, and I wouldn't want to retire it yet.
Give it a couple of years, they'll do that version of Switch Pro as well.
Yeah, then I'll have to do it.
100%.
Yeah, I guess at the moment I don't feel like there's a need for it, because I don't know, none of the games I'm playing on it feel that terrible, and I normally just play on handheld as well, so I'm not too bothered about having up the big screen. So for me, I'm probably good for now, but maybe in a few years I'd consider getting it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there's a real compelling reason to get one if you've already got a Switch. Like, I'm fascinated to see the difference between Breath of the Wild 2 on the Pro and Breath of the Wild 2 on the OG Switch. There's no, like, obviously all games must work on both, right? There's no suggestion that there's going to be Pro exclusives. So, just how meaningful will the change be? I suspect it'll probably just be resolution, frame rate stuff. And
upscale to 4K on 4K TVs, which, if Metroid does come this year, would certainly convince me to purchase. Also,
so you would do that for playing old games at high res?
No, I wouldn't buy a new Switch just for old games. I would buy one if Metroid Prime 4 was coming.
Oh, you're talking about Metroid Prime 4. Oh, okay. I feel it's too early for that, to be honest. We'll see. Okay, well, I mean, we talked a bit about the Pokemon stuff that was announced, just to very briefly run through it. Coming first is Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl this November.
You sound so excited.
You know what? It was really funny. Like, not to go too inside baseball about this, yeah. But
it always happens.
Tom,
take a day
give
off.
you insight into what it's like at Eurogamer, yeah. Tom is the person who writes about Pokemon for us, yeah. I think everyone knows that. Tom, you had time off to get your jab. Brilliant, obviously. Well done. Delighted for you. As soon as you left, Nintendo announced release dates for 2 massive Pokemon games, and me and Emma were like,
uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's happened again. It happens every time.
The timing is remarkable. And
should I book a day off next week just so that you know that you're going to get a pro release date?
Yes, that will be the day. They'll somehow know. Nintendo will know he's out. Let's announce. And Emma and me were like, okay, we should cover this, I suppose. Can't wait for him to come back. It's a pretty big deal. And Emma, you took Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl story to write the news because you'd at least played the originals, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am actually pretty excited about these games because Pokemon Pearl was my first Pokemon game. So.
How does that make you feel, Tom? How does that make you feel?
My first Pokemon game was the first Pokemon game, Pokemon Red and Blue.
Whew. I think that might be older than me. Yeah.
We're up to 30-something years old, so yeah.
Sorry, this is perfect.
Came out 98.
Oh, okay, no, so 2 years.
23 years old.
I think it came out earlier in Japan. I think it's like 96 in Japan, and then that's my birth year. So.
We need to know. Is it older than Emma? We need to know. Come on, let's work it out. What was the release date in Japan?
Pokemon Red and Green, it was in Japan, came out February 1996.
Oh, I was 1 month old.
Ah!
Just about.
I played it when you were 2. When it came to the UK.
I'm not going to comment on what I was doing. Okay, yeah. So you're excited for this?
Yeah.
It feels like a big these are going to be massive. Like they're full-blown Switch remakes, right? Of one of the 2 of the most popular Pokemon games.
Yeah, they're kind of in like a little retro chibi style, which I quite like the look of. But then you zoom in for battles, so I kind of like that mixture of not going too far forward with modernising it.
So that's 19th of November. And then Arceus, I'm just going to call it Arceus. Has Nintendo actually said the word out loud officially?
Yeah, I mean, like this is a Pokemon that's appeared in games, anime,
so it's properly pronounced
movies.
Arceus.
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't it the God Pokemon, this one?
It is.
Arceus then. It's out in January 28th next year. Only 2 months later. It feels to me like, that's not a big gap to have 2 massive. This is going to be a massive game as well. This is like, Pokemon does Zelda, basically. So that is a lot. So we're saying
maybe they think, people will just about finish their playthroughs of the first 2 games and then be like, oh, I want more, and then perfect timing, the next game's there.
But we're thinking like Nintendo is going to sandwich in between all of this stuff a new console, a new Zelda, a new Metroid, and then Splatoon is out not far after Arceus. So these are like potentially 5 enormous Nintendo games, all coming out within the space of 5 months. Pretty crazy. I hope it happens. I do, because it's been quite a light year for games. Nintendo swooping in to save it would be a lot of fun. Speaking of the Switch, another big story this week is that Valve is reportedly working on a Switch-like handheld gaming PC, potentially for release later this year. Valve going up against Nintendo with its own Switch-style console, just to add a bit of spice into the mix. There's a reference to a mysterious device known as Steam Pal, which I just love. I love that name, Steam Pal. In the latest version of Steam, we should say that there's a report by Ars Technica, which you should read if you want to know more about this.
Arc Technica.
Very good. Which claims this new Valve-developed all-in-one portable gaming PC features gamepad controls and a touchscreen in a similar form factor to the Switch, but without the detachable controllers. It's reportedly designed to run a large number of games on the Steam PC platform via Linux, and can even dock to a monitor via USB Type-C port. What does that remind you of? So,
you can play PC games on a PC monitor. Whatever next.
In a shit PC.
Yeah.
So, what do we think? Is Steam going to kill Switch? Tom, you're rolling your eyes. Look.
I remember Steam machines. I remember the Steam controller. Like, Valve does these wacky old things. I'm sure a few people will buy it. But look, if you want to play PC games, if you want to play Steam games, you're not going to play them on a handheld or plug a handheld into a TV screen. Like, if you play PC games, you have a PC. And if you want to play handheld games, then like Nintendo's just got that market cornered. It's got the franchises, it's got the audience.
All right, Bowser.
Yeah.
Did Bowser write that for you to say? You don't see any compelling reason to play PC games on the go.
Sure, but then you can do that already. Like, you don't need this new hardware to do that. This concept is not new. There are existing versions of this on the market already. Or you can stream games to your phone.
Oh, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, no one. Yeah, I know, but no one's. It's not like these things aren't pitched as like a Switch, a console, which is what this is. Emma, come on, back me up. You've got to see, like.
I would quite like the idea of that, being able to, mosey downstairs when I'm not feeling like playing on my PC that day because I've been, at work and I just want to change the scene.
Yeah. And it's going to be like actual games, not the Nintendo crap, So, like, here's an idea: you can play Apex Legends on Switch in shit like Vaseline mode, or you can play Apex Legends like on this new Steam PAL on the go with actual graphics.
Yeah.
But you're still playing on a tiny screen on a mobile connection, and it's still going to have a limited graphical range compared to what you would have on an actual console or PC.
Be better than Switch, though, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Why are you playing on a mobile connection? Like, I'm talking about, like, how do you use your Switch?
Handheld.
Yeah, like, people just like sit in their bed with their Switch, don't they? I'm not talking about like taking it out on the bus or anything.
No, but I'm saying like a Wi-Fi connection. It's not.
Yeah, I mean that's
it probably wouldn't be the best for online games.
Tom just despises this with every fibre of his being. How dare you come at Nintendo?
I think it's funny when people try.
This is that story that you wrote about Sony doing a Nintendo Direct, and you had to frame it as them copying Nintendo.
They did.
The problem with this, of course, it will probably cost like 500 quid because Valve thinks everyone's rich in the whole world and has mansions that can fit like VR units that are basically a holodeck.
That is what this will be aimed at least to start off with, because whatever they put out first, it just can't be as polished a unit as the next generation will be. So it'll be like their VR headsets, which sell fine for people who are interested in that niche. But yeah, we'll come back to it in a year. See how
I mean, this is apparently it's still in the prototype stage, so God knows what's actually going to happen here. But I love this quote from Gabe Newell, the Valve boss, who recently responded to a question about the company's games coming to consoles during a panel conversation at a New Zealand school. Gabe Newell lives in New Zealand now. He said, "You will get a better idea of that by the end of this year, and it won't be the answer you expect." So clearly he's talking about this, right? He must be talking about this. And he's saying get an idea of it by the end of the year. They're going to reveal it by the end of the year. Whether it comes out this year, I don't know. But I like Matt Wells wrote this article for us. Some of the ideas for the name of this thing: the Valve Nendo Gabe Boy. That's a bit of I'm not sure about that. Gabe Boy.
I'm not sure
anyone wants that to be a thing either. Steam Pal. Let's go with that. There's still so much for us to talk about. Let's talk about Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6, it might not even be called Battlefield 6. I think it's going to be just called Battlefield. Everyone is announced, I guess we can say, that EA has announced it and it's coming out later this year. They haven't shown it yet. And what we had this week was the leak of a video that was meant for internal use only at EA. That has been leaked, and some people thought it was the reveal trailer. It is not the reveal trailer. This video confirms a near future setting. There's a rocket that attempts to launch before it crashes onto the ground, and all hell breaks loose and things start to crumble, which suggests, that old Battlefield destruction thing that everyone loves.
Levolution.
Levolution. It's going to play another big part of this game, as you'd expect. And then at the end, we see the title is simply just Battlefield. So I think that, the suggestion there is this isn't called Battlefield 6, it's called Battlefield, which, given that Activision, they just went back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it shows that it can be done and it works. Almost like a soft reboot. To give a little bit more context about this video, because I've seen a lot of people saying, why did EA bother to make this video if it was just for internal use only? Publishers and developers do this all the time. They make videos that are meant just for internal use, that are meant to give people at the company an idea of what the game is supposed to be like about tonally, what it's shooting for. It's something that they'll show to partners under NDA, like retail partners, when they're trying to get them excited for their games that they would traditionally then, stock them or stock lots of them. It's trying to, companies have all hands meetings where people they try and G up the people at the company about the kind of stuff that they're working on, and people do internal presentations where they talk about these games. All this happens all the time. These things never normally get seen by the public, and they're not normally the kind of thing that will be signed off. You often get unapproved assets in them, music that they haven't officially licensed because it's not meant for the public, all that sort of stuff. So that's what this is. Brilliantly, whoever leaked this put this black rectangle thing right across the middle of the screen, and then a troll face on it. What is going on? It's also horrendous to watch. It's got this really annoying flashing effect, almost like people were piecing together different still images of something to make it. It's got an epilepsy warning. You shouldn't watch this if you've got any issues there. So that's the background to this trailer. We're expecting the actual reveal trailer in June. My question to you guys is this: based on what we know about Battlefield, do we think that it can pose a serious challenge to Call of Duty this year? Is Battlefield likely to be back? Emma, I'll start with you. What do you reckon?
I think it's a good time for it, with all the kind of, I don't know, it seems to be pitching itself as being a big next-gen showcase game. And I think that's quite a smart idea. Although obviously people are a bit worried that it's releasing on last gen as well, and that might hold it back. I don't know, I kind of like the sound of it. It looks like it's going a little bit more modern and futuristic, and sort of like a kind of space rocket thing going on. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. I would give it time.
Near future setting, so I don't think it's like way in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like, this
slightly
century.
more futuristic, but modern. Yeah.
Tom, what do you think about this game? Do you reckon it's got a chance to make a dent in Call of Duty's dominance?
A dent, yeah. I think that there's definitely pent up demand for Battlefield. It doesn't come around every year. It's an interesting setting, a popular setting for Call of Duty. And then you look at what Call of Duty is doing this year, World War II, people that hyped to go back to that again. I don't know. It looks pretty fun from the weird trailer that we've seen. So yeah, the question though really is, what is this game competing with? Is it competing with whatever the main Call of Duty is this year, or is it competing? And I think it will do okay against that, even though Call of Duty is just a much bigger brand. Or is it also competing with Warzone, which is just like stratospheric at the moment? And like that's how they managed, or how they try to compete with that, with whatever Battlefield's ongoing live service battle royale component is, will be fascinating to watch.
It's got to have a battle royale, right, to have any chance of competing.
You would think. But is it going to come at launch, or is it later, or is it separate? Is it part of it? Do you need to buy like the £70 game to get battle royale? Surely not. So how is that going to work? That's going to be fascinating.
Big questions to answer. And then, from an EA perspective, it already has a massive battle royale. It's already got Apex Legends.
Oh yeah.
So do they want to? Does EA want to, potentially cannibalize? It's already 100 million player plus battle royale with another one. For me, like, this game will probably do well, but if it wants to be like, if Battlefield wants to like take on Call of Duty, it needs to take on Warzone with its own battle royale. But how would that work?
Almost feels like big shooters nowadays have to have a battle royale to almost compete. I don't know. It always feels like a prerequisite. You'd be more surprised if it didn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, think about Halo. Like, there'll be Halo purists who, if Microsoft breathed the words battle royale, will be like, right, I'm out. But in the big picture, does Halo need a battle royale mode that's free to make any sort of impact? Probably.
Yeah, or at least they've said they're making multiplayer free, because that is the expectation now, that you get people in like that, and also the expectation from their side financially as well. You get people in and you make it as accessible as possible.
Sell
and then
those battle passes.
Sell them back blings. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that Battlefield has dropped the number as well, suggesting that maybe this is seen as the Battlefield for the foreseeable future, the platform from which to launch new modes and features and
rockets
and battle royales. Maybe. Yeah.
It will be really, really interesting. I kind of feel like it could probably get away with a slight delay to the battle royale coming out. But if you look at what happened last time with Battlefield and its battle royale, that came out way too late after Battlefield. I can't remember which game that was attached to.
Firestorm?
Firestorm, that's the name of it. Everyone forgets.
It's a bit of a damp squib in the end.
Yeah, it's just nothing. Just complete nothing. So they've had a shot at Battle Royale before. We forget. Like when Treyarch did it with Blackout. So yeah, really, really fascinating. We'll learn a lot more in June. And then EA has its own event in July, EA Play. It's not doing E3. So it won't be long before we find out more. Oh God, there's so much to get through. I want to talk about Randy Pitchford.
Oh no.
I know, I'm sorry, but we kind of have to talk about Randy Pitchford. Because he said something on Twitter this week, which is really interesting. He tweeted, I'm just going to read it out verbatim, quote, "Good news or bad news first? Good news. Never start with the good news. That's the first mistake, Randy. Good news. An update for Borderlands 3 has been prepared for release that includes full crossplay support across all platforms. Bad news. For certification, we have been required by the publisher to remove crossplay support for PlayStation consoles. Right, what do we know? Borderlands 3 is getting crossplay, but not on PlayStation. That's what he's saying. That's what we know for a fact. Now, all the other stuff is kind of weird, right? And people are trying to work out what he's talking about. Tom, you wrote this story. What the hell is Randy Pitchford on about?
I think the one thing that we can be sure about is that Randy Pitchford wants to spark speculation and stir the pot a bit with this tweet, because it's the kind of thing where you don't normally hear about this on twitter.com. You normally would expect that this had been sorted out prior to stuff like this being announced behind the scenes in meeting rooms.
Yeah.
So the question is, what has gone wrong here? Now, clearly, for a long time, Gearbox has said, we want Borderlands 3 to have crossplay. So presumably for a long time, their publisher, 2K, would be aware of this. And presumably, as there are many other crossplay games on PlayStation, PlayStation would have been aware about this. Why are we hearing about this now? Well, less than 2 weeks ago, we heard as part of the Epic versus Apple trial that PlayStation controversially charges for crossplay, which Nintendo doesn't do and Xbox doesn't do. So that if you are a crossplay game and money is made on other platforms, you have to pay. You have to pay.
If there's a threshold, right? So there's an equation. We've written about this. It's worth looking at if you want to know more. Basically, if you're spending a lot of time playing on PlayStation but spending on something else, Sony wants some money.
Yeah, it's an arrangement that doesn't exist elsewhere. And crucially, it's an arrangement that was not public information until 2 weeks ago. Less than 2 weeks later, Randy Pitchford just happens to tweet about PlayStation crossplay. Ah, what a coincidence. So, yeah, what is happening here? Is it now that they are, they being Gearbox or 2K, are trying to make a stink about this? Because, you know, everybody hates that PlayStation is doing this. When people found out about this, the reaction was, what the hell? You know, this isn't, of course it's business sense, but it's not like, it's not for the players. It's not what the other platforms are doing. And it makes Sony look like dicks, you know? So with this knowledge, is Gearbox or 2K trying to highlight the fact that this is the situation that they are dealing with? Are they potentially trying to not pay? Could they have possibly submitted this patch and it got through to Sony Cert and they were like, hang on a minute, you're putting through crossplay, but we haven't, you know, or either you haven't signed up to our agreement on this, or you're doing it in a way that won't let us track this. I don't know. Like,
that's unlikely.
The details are deliberately obscured, but something has happened at this point, which things don't normally get to.
Something has gone horribly wrong.
For things to change, or maybe PlayStation has changed its own policy behind the scenes. We don't know. But of course, now everybody wants to know. And in the meantime, it's brought this topic back into conversation. And really, like, PlayStation is being made to look like the
money-grabbing bastards.
The people who are holding things up, because the gamers want Borderlands 3 crossplay. And if they don't get it now, Randy Pitchford has said, well, it's not on us. It's not on Gearbox. We've wanted it. But for some reason, it's being held up over there.
Well, he says, for certification, we have been required by the publisher to remove crossplay support. So that's interestingly phrased. Publisher is 2K. So he's saying 2K has required Gearbox to remove crossplay support from Borderlands from this update. So to me, that suggests, and he says for certification. And what that means is, in order to get the game greenlit to launch on the update greenlit to launch on PlayStation consoles. So to me, that suggests that 2K has been, at the behest of Gearbox, been trying to convince Sony to just either not have this apply to them, or change the terms, pay less money, whatever. I suspect they just don't want to pay them. And those discussions failed. And Randy's pissed, and he's trying to call out Sony, and he's trying to get the public court of public opinion to compel Sony out of shame.
Yeah, I put this in my story, but it reminds me of the situation where Fortnite or Epic Games, were trying to win the hearts and minds of everybody by doing something that they knew was naughty, that they knew what they were going to get into trouble about, that they knew was not really in the rules, that they added in the extra Fortnite payment option. Apple obviously kicked off, and Epic Games were ready, waiting with their bizarre, silly 1984 parody and that campaign with the hashtag Free Fortnite, which was a ploy to get public opinion on their side. And it feels like
Randy's got a hashtag up his sleeve, ready to magically
pull it out of his hat.
Emma, do you see Sony buckling?
Not really. I don't think they will, unless it becomes like a lot of developers start talking about it, and it, in a similar way to the initial cross-play decision was. It felt like that had been building up for ages. I feel like it might need a bit longer, and if people keep bringing this up as an issue and getting annoyed by it, then maybe it might change. But at the moment, I think that Sony's probably just hoping that people forget about it after a while.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if this actually goes anywhere. I can't see Randy Pitchford suing Sony in the same way that Epic has ended up suing Apple. But he's clearly upset. He wants crossplay, and he's trying to get it.
Also, he knows that this is going to make him and Gearbox look like good guys, right? They're trying to make crossplay happen. They're trying to make crossplay happen, and those people over there just don't want to let it happen. Poor them. If you had a new game to promote, then I'm sure this being in the headlines wouldn't hurt.
Okay, moving swiftly on. Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. This week, Sega held a virtual event called Sonic Central, which is basically Sonic Direct. There you go, Tom. They copied Nintendo.
Well, it wasn't as good, was it?
It wasn't very good. Mercifully, it was short, but
it was quick.
It wasn't. Like it wasn't. It wasn't great. They confirmed some stuff that had leaked. Sonic Colors Ultimate, I think it's called, and a Sonic Origins collection.
They confirmed some stuff they'd leaked themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, and I want to talk about the game that they teased right at the end of the show, which was the next big Sonic game from Sonic Team. 2022, list of platforms, PC, current gen, last gen, Switch, and this sort of like very brief CGI teaser showing Sonic running around a woodland area, and in that, in doing that, a sort of weird looking symbol logo-y thing appears that people haven't been able to work out. And just 2022. That's it. Okay, they're teasing the next big Sonic game. Immediately, fans are trying to work out what it's called. They're digging into the trailer, finding like file names, all of this kind of stuff. And then Sega sent us a press release rounding up all the announcements from Sonic Central, and they just blurted out the name. Sonic Rangers. In the press release, so they didn't deliberately created this tease didn't name the game in the big event they had, and then accidentally named it in their press release, and then subsequently pulled the name from the version of the press release that's online. So we now know it's called Sonic Rangers, which is gaff.
I don't know why.
How did this happen?
I don't know why they decided that we shouldn't know it was called Sonic Rangers. I don't know what Sonic Rangers is supposed to tell us, and that they decided at the last minute to hold that back. Okay.
Why not just announce it with the name? Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
the teaser doesn't have a name.
Who does this?
I don't know.
Like, so yeah, so they've just completely fucked up. I think it's hilarious. People are suggesting it's an open world Zelda type game, which will be the first for Sonic.
You range around.
Rangers being like, you know, sort of range that, you know, like a ranger going around the land. We saw like a woodland area, and then the Sonic Ranger's name was mentioned in some posts earlier this year of people who have claimed to have play tested the game as part of focus testing, which does happen. And those posts, which, you know, you look back on now and go, that is the name of the game, so they have more of a legitimacy. Talk about it being an open world game, a bit like Zelda. Copying Nintendo again,
but not as good. Maybe you'll be able to play it on your new Steam Switch.
Steam Switch. Do any of us care about this game?
I'm not a big Sonic fan, I have to say.
No.
Me
I was a
either.
Mario kid growing up.
Yeah, me too. Oh wow, look at us. So biased. Okay, so that was just a sort of funny, weird thing that has happened. Let's talk about Horizon. Sony isn't doing E3, but it is doing these like state of play broadcasts where they, you know, maybe they'll have one that is basically like an E3 press conference, but this week they did one just for Horizon. They showed off 15 minutes, just under 15 minutes of gameplay, a really significant chunk of the game that we got to see. I'd love to talk to you about what you thought about it. Emma, you've watched some of this at least. What was your impression?
I mean, I've only watched like a tiny bit of it and like some bits, but it does look very nice, very colourful. Looks good. Aloy's hair looks nice. To me, like looking at it, it didn't seem like instantly like hugely different to the previous game. It's kind of just like more of the same but better and nicer looking to me, which is like fine. Seems nice. I'm sure it'd be very good.
Aloy's hair, it's not realistic because it's just constantly on the move. And video games do this where they're trying desperately to make realistic hair, and they've got this hair tech.
It's kind of like flowing locks. Yeah.
It's almost like it's just got a life of its own. Like, I don't think hair actually moves like that, you know, even when you're in motion.
I think I've been watching too much anime because to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's how hair works. It's just kind of flowing and like powerful hair or something. But you're right, actually, thinking about it. It does look a bit like snake-like almost. It's like it's moving a bit.
Yeah. It's just too much. They've gone too far with like the physics of it. That it's just constantly going crazy, even, you know, in slight motion, and it's distracting. I found myself looking at Aloy's hair, going, "What is happening there?" More than, you know, the rest of it. I bet there's like a team of people working on that hair, like Aloy's hair, just to try and make it stand out. Tom, have you seen this video?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of it. I didn't watch all 14 minutes this morning, but I thought it looked incredible. Probably the best looking PlayStation 5 game, better than Ratchet. The world just looks beautiful, and it's the world that really attracted me to the first game. Just dipping into it, I think they're doing a really cool thing with that universe that they're building up and taking her to new places this time. I don't know how it's going to look on PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Or sound on PlayStation 4 with those PlayStation 4 fans. It's watching the footage last night, I really was like, wait, I went to double check that this is coming out on last gen as well. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how that compares. I wonder if
Aloy's
hair will be a bit more calm on PS4.
It would just be like a cyberpunk blob.
Bit rigid, yeah.
Yeah. A Lego.
Just put a load of hairspray in it, you know. It's just not moving too much.
Did you see it's copied Nintendo again with the Zelda glide thing, and it's got the grapple.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first game to do that, is it? So like, Genshin
Riding
Impact and
around a
Champion Heroes.
robot horsey thing.
I mean, this is the main criticism that I had, that other people had about the original Horizon, was as beautiful as the world was, as interesting as the character was, that mechanically there are plenty of ideas there that you will have played in other games too. And I think the main criticism that I've seen from the video last night is that, again, you have probably seen all of these gameplay mechanics elsewhere too. Is that a big concern for a lot of people? No. Like, it's a cool world and it's a cool character and people are going to have fun. Does it matter that it's not breaking new ground, trying to be a new genre? No, probably not. Yeah.
It's just very Sony first party, isn't it? It's got like the Uncharted ledge climbs.
It oozes quality throughout. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at how like the little details are just there everywhere you look. Like, there was almost so much on screen that I didn't know where to look. It was visually extremely impressive.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a monster hit. It's supposed to be out later this year. I can see it being Sony's big Christmas game, assuming they hit that release date.
They didn't. Yeah, that was interesting.
They didn't put the release date. Yeah, so I wonder if it's up in the air whether it will come out this year. You know, there's obviously huge production problems throughout the games industry, working from home and remotely and all the rest of it. So, you know, I can see it getting delayed till next year. But currently, it's down for later this year. We shall see. And another game that we saw meaningfully for the first time this week was Dying Light 2, which has a December release date. They put out a new gameplay trailer this week. Have you guys had a chance to see this?
No, I was watching. To be honest, I was playing Mass Effect.
I watched it. I actually think it looks pretty good. Techland has had enormous problems, clearly, with the development of this game. You know, it's been said it's in development hell, and that studio has had other issues that have been reported on that have been pretty worrying about the culture there. All these sorts of problems, that when I saw the video and it's got, you know, gameplay in it, I was pretty impressed. I thought, wow, that's actually looking pretty cool. It's essentially story-based zombie game set in a city, with cool parkour stuff and some interesting ideas. It looks like a lot of fun. It'll be really interesting to see if that comes out in December, as they've announced, because of all the problems that they've had. I think it's going to be a big game if it does. I can see Dying Light 1 has been a really big game over the years, and I can see this being really, really big as well. The question will be, will this game live up to the promise of the gameplay that they showed this week? But it does look pretty cool. And finally, before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about Final Fantasy. This week, we had rumblings. Well, not really rumblings, but, you know, an article by Fanbyte, which is outright saying that Team Ninja, which developed Neo, is working on a Neo-like Final Fantasy spin-off for PS5 and PC, and the reveal is set for June. It's called Final Fantasy Origin, and it's said to take place somewhere in or adjacent to the world of the first Final Fantasy game on the NES, which Emma will have no memory of. Talking about, you know, how old things are, the NES is definitely older than you. It will be a bit like Neo, a bit like From Software's Soul series, but a bit more accessible. And apparently it's going to launch as a timed PS5 exclusive, with a PC release to follow. There's even like information about an alpha version being made public this summer under the name Stranger in Paradise, so that the developers can get feedback. And yeah, this is an E3 reveal of some description.
Clearly, a
Tom,
lot of leaks going around at the moment.
yeah, I was going to say, like, we believe this, right? There's no suggestion this isn't true, right, Tom? This is pretty much nailed on.
Yeah, and it follows the pattern of previous Square Enix timed exclusives, which obviously have favored PlayStation in the past.
Cool. And I know you two aren't the biggest Final Fantasy fans in the world, but it's clear that Sony is investing heavily in Final Fantasy, right? This is the thing I want to sort of talk about, so that it's almost become like it used to be, which was very much a PlayStation first series. And interestingly, they've talked about these sorts of partnerships in an investor relations document that went live this week. Really fascinating investor day document where they're talking about investing heavily in partnerships with third parties to get exclusives for PlayStation, even if they're just timed. Seems to be a big strategy for them to try and compete on the first party front. At the same time, Microsoft is like snapping up studios. Do we think that there's any potential for Sony to perhaps make a significant acquisition with Square Enix, since they've been working so closely with them on Final Fantasy and all the rest of it? What do we think? No?
I'll jump in. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think this is Sony's deal. I think that they don't have the war chest that Xbox has. And I don't think they need to. I think that Xbox has a much bigger reason to beef up its first party offering right now. Sony has a great first party lineup already announced, and it already has these big franchises which are well aligned with its own audience, like Final Fantasy, like looking at Final Fantasy VII Remake. It has a really good partnership with Square Enix that works fine as it is. They can get titles like what's the one with the really weird title that's coming out that they've announced? Forspoken.
No, oh yeah, Forspoken.
Stuff like that.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, I think that it's the best of both worlds for PlayStation and Square Enix. Square Enix gets to still do things like put old games on Game Pass and put stuff on PC. As PlayStation knows that it has a really big audience on its own consoles already that are going to turn up for Final Fantasy games, especially if they are out a year or so before other platforms. It means that PlayStation 5 is really the place that it's the console that you want to play those games on. I don't think it needs to splash the cash. And just look what it's doing already with other studios, things like Jade Raymond's studio. It hasn't acquired that studio, doesn't need to, but it's pumping money in. And it's effectively like a second party now. So I think that if there is any evolution of the relationship between Square Enix and PlayStation, it will be to evolve towards more of a second party model.
Be a lot of fun online though if they did just buy Square Enix. Okay, there's so much news that we had to leave out because we ran out of time. It's been incredible, and it's only going to get better for news as we get closer to E3. So I'm looking forward to all of that good stuff. Let's wrap up with our traditional mug check. Tom, actually Emma, why are you doing? What's this mean?
I completely forgot a mug today because I'm in the office.
You're in the office today, yeah.
Yeah, I should
There's a cupboard full of them.
I know.
There is a cupboard full of them, isn't there?
Damn.
Okay, we'll let you off because you're in the office. Tom, what you got?
Mixing my two favorite things, games and puns. We have Monopoly and safety deposit.
My God. Where'd you get these things from?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think this might have been from an Easter egg a long time ago.
Yeah. You got that from inside an Easter egg?
You get Easter eggs and they have like a mug with the
box. Yeah.
That'd be great. Easter egg like that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It'd be enormous.
Yeah. Okay. This one isn't particularly interesting to look at, but it's the story behind it. Forgive the American spelling of favorite there. This mug was given to Alexia, my wife, at our wedding by her parents. Alexia is one of 3 sisters. She's the middle sister, and her sisters constantly complain that she's considered the favourite. It's been this running joke that has sometimes felt actually quite serious for years and years and years, growing up, now, you know, for all their lives, really. And Alexia's father, when he did the Father of the Bride speech, he didn't tell them he was going to do this. But he asked Alexia's sisters, who were bridesmaids, to stand up for a toast, a special toast. And everyone's expecting him to go, look at the amazing bridesmaids, you know, what a lovely job they've done, how great they are, and all this stuff. And he said, like, raise your glasses. So Alexia's 2 sisters raised their glasses. And he said, a toast to the favourite. And they were like, and you could see in their faces at that moment that he just like daggered into their heart and like really rubber stamped this. And he pulled this out as like a gift for her for the wedding. And they were like, yeah, to the favourite. And they had to, in front of everyone, the whole room full of people. And I was laughing my ass off, man. That was well funny. So yeah, boring mug, but fun story behind it. Cool. All right, that wraps up another action-packed episode. Thanks very much for your time. Tom, for more accusations of plagiarism when it comes to Nintendo, where should people go on Twitter?
It's at Tom Phillips EG.
And Emma, for more complaints about why you're losing at Apex Legends, where should people go to Twitter?
At Gonieke.
And I'm at WYP100. Thanks, guys. Bye.